we are now pleased to bring in our next guest here on the show. He comes by way of ProHockeyTalk.NBCSports.com, a great hockey blog. You can also follow him on Twitter.com/Joe Yerdon, PHT. It is Joe Yerdon. Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Doing great, Matthew. How are you?
I am well. Long time no speak, sir.
Hey, it's been a while, but hey, we got some fun stuff to talk about.
We do. Joe, what have you been up to this weekend? Any digging out? Where were you in the great northeastern storm of 2013?
Hey, I was just a few hours south of you guys here, just north of Albany, and we didn't really get pounded too bad. So it was about 7 inches maybe. So it was just a little light digging out and right back to normal. So we survived well. At least I wasn't in Connecticut. Yeah, it wasn't so bad around here either. But for my fantasy hockey team, I had a couple Lightning that didn't get to play last night, so I was kind of ticked off in Boston. But it's not all about me, Matthew. All right. You can make up for it later whenever they reschedule.
Yeah, they haven't decided that yet, huh?
No, not yet. The condensed schedule makes it a little bit tricky to find two open dates that won't cause both teams to have to play like three in a row.
Yeah. It is Joe Yerdon here on TSN 690 as we talk some hockey. Joe, lots of storylines going around the NHL right now. Pick one that you're writing about, you're thinking about, you're watching. What's on your mind?
Well, the one interesting one to me is Yaroslav Halak coming back now for the Blues because his absence with a lower body injury, I believe he had a groin issue there, ended up turning the Blues into a team where everything started to crumble around them the last 4 games. They were giving up tons of goals. Brian Elliott kind of turned back into Brian Elliott, not the guy that we saw last season.
Right.
And Ken Hitchcock basically threw Elliott under the bus last night, saying they needed better play out of him. They were talking about playing Jake Allen tomorrow night, but Halak's better. Halak's feeling better, and he's probably going to play tomorrow night. So the Blues are a chic pick for a lot of people to win the Stanley Cup, but looking the way they have lately, I'm not even sure if Halak would keep them in some of those games. They're giving up an average of 4 goals a game, and this is a team that wasn't giving up even 2 goals a game for most of last season.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, elsewhere in that, we can stick in that division, Joe. Certainly the Red Wings are off to an up-and-down start. We know all about Lidstrom retiring and Stewart now away from that defense core. But, Ian White is back there, and they won today. The Red Wings, are they buyers? Are they sellers? It's hard to figure out what this team is going to be this year.
For them, I think if they're going to buy, it's going to be on defense. They need help there. They're getting some all right play. They looked gassed and dog tired today against LA, but Jimmy Howard kept them in the game. But they're a team that could use a top 4 like defenseman to help them out. You look at what they've got. Nick Cronwell's looked like a more grown up, more mature player. Jonathan Erickson looks like he's improved a little bit this year. You got the game winner today, so that helps. Ian White's a steady veteran guy, but if they're going to buy, it's got to be on defense. And I'm not sure what they really have to offer up. They've got a couple of younger kids that could be intriguing to teams that are looking to give away a defenseman. But I don't know that there's the kind of guy that they're looking for to get out there. People throw out Jay Boomeister's name quite a bit when it comes to deals, and I think eventually we'll end up seeing Calgary being a seller as the season goes on. But Boomeister comes with a pretty hefty price tag to him. So, but I'm not sure that he's the guy that would really help solve things for the Red Wings. He's an all right defenseman, but I think what you end up paying for him to play doesn't equal the production that he brings you. But Detroit's they're an interesting team. They seem to be getting by, and Zetterberg's playing out of his mind. Datsuk is as good as he's ever been. So I think people are eager to write them off, and they're going to celebrate whenever they do end up missing the playoffs. But I'm not sure it's going to be this season.
Celebrate? Really? You think there's that much hate for them?
Absolutely. You talk to anybody who's, listen, whenever you have a successful team, a team that wins titles over time, and let's look at it this way. The Red Wings have been a playoff team since, 94, 93? They've made the playoffs every year since back when I was in, middle school, basically. And, it's a team that, success breeds contempt. And, for the Red Wings, it's 4 Stanley Cups. It's playoffs every year. It's upsetting a lot of fan bases of Western teams and a handful of Eastern ones too. So I think whenever that streak comes to an end, people are gonna dance around and throw a party. I mean, it's the same thing that happens if, say, the Yankees fall on their face and miss the playoffs. People are dancing in the streets, happy to see a team that's had success lose. So it's just one of those things. I mean, I'm sure the same thing happens if the Montreal Canadiens miss the playoffs. You have a giant history full of grand stuff to draw on, and you miss out, and all your rivals are more than happy to throw dirt on the grave.
All right, Joe, I want to ask you a question, actually. Now, I don't know if he's gone to Amsterdam and maybe picked up something to smoke legally, but I'm wondering, I know he played in Europe, in the Russian part of Europe, or the European part of Russia, I should say. What in the world is Ryan O'Reilly thinking with these demands with the Avalanche? I mean, the guy had one good year. One! He wasn't even on the radar of any fantasy hockey guys or, people around the NHL. He's got 1 year, and all of a sudden, he's trying to make the money, back for the next 10 years in one contract. To me, it's just ridiculous. I mean, whatever the Avalanche are willing to pay him should be what he's willing to get paid, and now he's just doing nothing. I mean, how long is this thing going to drag out, and are you in agreement that he's just so ridiculous right now?
It seems crazy. Honestly, the whole situation.
The guy had 55 points. 55.
I know. I can't blame him for trying to strike while his stock was up. I can't blame him. I can't fault him that. You look at his story. He made the NHL fresh out of the draft as a third round pick, I think it was, and it was kind of a surprise story. I mean, nobody expected him really to jump to the NHL right away, and he did, and he was arguably their best player last year. So, I could see his angle where he wants to cash in, but there's a problem when you're a restricted free agent and you don't have that power. I mean, you can hold out and sit out all that you want to and not sign a contract, but I think, and I know there's been some speculation that his people are grumpy at Matt Duchene's people for not trying to cash in the same way when his deal was up, and he took a short contract and didn't reach for the moon. But I think with O'Reilly, this just seems destined to fall down the road where he's going to end up someplace else, and that's where he's going to wind up signing. And it's put the Avalanche in a bad place because they don't have any leverage really aside from last year's numbers to be able to deal him, and you're basically working up potential. I mean, a team that's interested in him doesn't really know what they're going to get out of him. I mean, he was banged up in Russia, and now he's not playing hockey. So it's an ugly situation. It reminds me a little bit of what happened with Chris Stewart in Colorado, where he just ended up, by the dark of night, ended up in a blockbuster deal. But there's nothing good that comes out of this with O'Reilly, and I kind of feel for the Avs there because they're trying to be tightwads about it, but at the same point, I mean, you look at like what Subban did in Montreal when he finally signed. It was below market, I guess, for his talents, but he's going to cash in eventually, and that's what's going to happen with O'Reilly. It just takes time. Sometimes you have to be a little patient.
Joe, do me a favor. You got to write about this for the blog.
There's so much. It's so weird with O'Reilly and the Avalanche because the Avalanche kind of operate in secrecy. And by PR appearances and by the public appearances, it looks like they're being tight with money. And O'Reilly isn't really doing himself any favors, but the Avs are kind of controlling the story by not doing anything about it. So
right.
It's very awkward. It's very weird, and it's tough to get any sort of information out of Colorado about it. It's one of those things that there's going to be a resolution to it, and it's just going to fall right in our lap, and then we're going to be like, whoa, wait, what happened? What happened here? Where are we going? It's going to be like one of those kind of stories. He is
Joe Yerdon. You can follow him on prohockeytalk.nbcsports.com. You can also check out twitter.com/Joe Yerdon, PHT. Joe, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Hey, Matthew, thanks for having me.